سيداتي سادتي أهلا وسهلا. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm very excited always to be associated with AHIC, but I must say today I feel very proud as well. Proud to have been asked to moderate a panel to speak to you ladies, very successful businesswomen, especially in the Saudi Arabia market. I will allow, obviously, the panelists to introduce themselves later on, but I want to introduce myself first by saying this is something, we are here today to celebrate success. And there's a lot of celebrations that we're going to be making. We're going to be hearing the success stories of those individuals, but also of the companies, and we're going to try to also understand what is it more that we can do in individual capacity as government and also as companies to support the growth of women in the industry. It is exciting and very reassuring also when we talk about the Vision 2030, that women empowerment is a great initiative that is supported, and we're going to be also discussing that in the sense of what would that do for unemployment and how are we going to also find staff and how we're going to train them and how we're going to grow them. A quick introduction on myself. This is very different to the usual. I was born in Beirut a long time ago, and I started my first job in Beirut when I was 15. Now back then, this wasn't an issue of a female going out to work. This was an issue of actually someone that young to go out to work. So it wasn't about gender, it was more about culture. And since then I left Beirut, I was 18. I lived and worked in Paris and London. I studied there as well, and then I joined HRS in London in the early 2000s. In 2007, I was asked to go and set up Shanghai office for HRS, covering the whole of Asia. And I landed in Dubai one day on a holiday, actually, and I thought, wow, that's exciting. I mean, this is a lot of growth here. I should come closer to home. And I was obviously given the opportunity to become a partner in Dubai, and since then I've grown the business across the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. That's in my professional world. In a personal capacity, I'm also a mother for 3 children. One is, my little girl is 10, and I've got a 12-year-old boy and a 15-year-old boy. And a confession to be made today, they are the boss. So when I'm at home, they boss me around. When I go back to the office, I actually can empower and train people. And the reason I have shared a little bit more about my life is obviously to relate to the conversation we're having later on, but also to say that there is still some catch-up to do. But there is also a lot of success that we have made. The first time I joined the AHIC community in 2007, and I know AHIC is now celebrating 12 years, I was invited to Gordon Ramsay dinner reception, and I walked in just under 200 people, and I was the only female. And I did feel very lonely. So you can imagine how happy I am and excited today that I've got women next to me on the panel. Thank you, AHIC, but also more women in the room. And I'm nervous, but I'm very excited. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and over to my panelists to introduce themselves. Just a quick context, it's great to have someone, Reem from the private family business, Solange representing Hilton, multinational company, but also Abir working closely with the government to move forward with the Women Empowerment Initiative. If I can perhaps start with asking you each one to introduce yourself, but also to discuss how you see success and leadership in the context of your own career.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the invitation. And it's very exciting for me to be on a panel with such successful ladies. And well, my name is Abir Al-Hashmi. I'm the Vice President of Upskilling in Takamul Holding, which is a private company owned by the government. We work very closely with the Ministry of Labor and HRDF in managing or trying to solve some of the labor market issues, creating solutions. Sometimes it's recommending changes in the policies or coming up with products that support solving issues in the labor market. In terms of my career, I think some of the when we talk about the challenges, I think we always need to think about 2 things. So for a woman to become a leader, you need to have the internal forces right for you, and also the external. Internal meaning knowing what you want and having the drive, knowing that is leadership the thing that you want to do? Do you want to lead others, and do you want to grow into your career? The second thing, which I was very lucky with, is having the support of your family, your spouse, and the organization you work with. And I was lucky to have both.
That's great. Reem, before you introduce yourself, please allow me again to congratulate you for the announcement with the Dur Hospitality. That's exciting news.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So my name is Reem Garrash. I'm the CEO of SHIC Hospitality. It's a Saudi family company, has been acquired yesterday. We announced the acquisition of 60% of our stocks to Dur Hospitality. So I've been in this business actually in and off since 2007, and I started working full-time since 2011. That was purely family business by that time, and in a moment, in 2017, we thought in order to maintain this business and pass it to the next generation, because currently I'm the second generation, and someday I hope to see my children working in the same company. So we thought either to take it public or to have some kind of investors in this company. So we prepared by that time to be listed in Numu, which is the parallel market in the smaller market in Hayat Al-Kamal. And then we received an offer from Dur Hospitality, which was really attractive to have a big player with you, gain benefit from all of their experience and giving us a lot of shortcuts in the market. So we thought that this is the perfect synergy, and alhamdulillah, here we are today.
That's great. I mean, obviously, this becomes also more relevant as you grow and you look to expand. How are you going to attract the talent? And how are you going to also allow other women to grow and shine?
Inshallah.
Solange, moving on to you. I've just read that actually Hilton has been voted the #1 workplace for working parents.
Correct.
So offline, if you're looking, I can join you. But tell us a little bit more about yourself and about how you look at leadership.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Solange Korm. I'm Lebanese, and I am the head of recruitment with Hilton for Middle East, Africa, and Turkey. And yes, we're a great place to work for parents, #1, but a great place to work globally. We are ranked #9, and which is a great achievement, being the only hospitality company on that list, and climbed the ladder from number 14 to number 9. So basically, we aim to have a great place to work for all. That relates to our conversation regarding women empowerment, diversity, and inclusion, and we'll have the chance to talk more about it. But going back to your question regarding women empowerment and leadership, both topics, I get so passionate about it, and it relates to me, and I find it so inspiring and empowering for me personally, because it relates directly to my career. I've been with the company for 10 years, and I started as an HR clerk. And 10 years later, here I am in a senior leadership role with the company. And basically, it's because of two things. Because of my persistence, first of all. I believed in this, and I wanted this, and I worked so hard for it. But also because of the company who believed in me and in my capabilities, and really put all the tools and resources available for me, like for any other female colleague and other colleagues, available for us to really grow our career. And that's a key message, to really believe in your employer and what your employer can invest in you and grow your career.
Well, I guess, just taking off from here and looking as to whether, is there a strategy that we can all agree that helps women succeed? Abir, is that one strategy that you recommend every woman out there? Or what in your opinion, is strategy that?
Well, first, I think leadership is not related to gender specifically, but maybe there are things, we need to face it, women and men are not equal. There are things that we suffer maybe from or hold us back a bit more than how it impacts men. But one thing that we share in common is that, first of all, to become a leader, maybe it's also what you mentioned last, it is really understanding what that thing that makes you special, what's your superpower, and really working hard to be the best in it. So what makes you shine? That's number one. One thing that I think also, the second thing, which I think we women suffer from it more, and we need the support of all of the men managers here to overcome it, is that we, especially the mothers, we always feel guilty if we don't have everything perfect. So we try to be the best moms we can. We try to be the best employees we can. And if we sometimes, become very hard on ourselves. So that holds us back sometimes, or we feel guilty. So I think the feeling of guilt and seeking to be perfect in everything is not true. That you can never be perfect all the time. So it's okay to do mistakes. It's okay not to have everything you want. Just do your best and make sure that what's the right balance for you, and that you're always progressing from that point. There's always progress. You can never, especially for those who are very ambitious, it's hard to be satisfied easily. And for those men around, I think understanding that, giving them the courage, giving them the advice, and pushing them even when they have doubts is something very important. The third thing that I think is extremely important is, and we can do better, is being a positive force. So women are known to have better emotional intelligence, so we can read the rooms and the emotions maybe better. So it's easier for us to be the positive force and bring in the positive energy and into the rooms we enter, and making everyone around us feel better about themselves and about the team and about the achievements, and even feeling better after challenging times. So becoming the positive force in your organization is also something that I believe is one of the most powerful strategies that a woman can be known for.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with what you said. You make a valid point, and often these challenges are in our minds. I would call them the internal challenges, and then there are the external challenges. So on that point, Reem, if I can go back to you and talk perhaps about what you've just heard, but also what were the challenges that you faced along the way. Is it because you've stepped into a family business that you wouldn't necessarily relate or agree with that? Have you experienced something similar? But what are also the challenges that you have experienced?
The challenges in the same family business, you mean?
In the whether it was in the family business or in the outside world?
Well, I didn't find any hard barrier in working, because I was working in my family business. So I didn't work long time in an external company. So, but I might find some of my colleagues might find some of the challenges. Actually, those challenges are not coming from outsiders. They're coming from inside us as a women. Okay, so one of the challenges that we don't speak loud, we don't speak up, we don't express what do we want, how do we feel about working in a place or another. And so that might be one of the challenges. Another one is we don't plan ahead. So adding to your point, I think every lady should plan her career in advance. As I've seen in our culture, in Saudi culture, ladies just graduate, step in the workforce, work in an XYZ company, but she doesn't actually plan what she wants to reach after 10 years. So she might work for 2 years, then get married, quit, having a first child, then go back to work. So not planning ahead, not planning in advance would not reach to a positive, the position where does she want. So I think that's one of the challenges. As I told you, most of the challenges are coming from us as a women, sometimes seeking perfections, just like you say, Abir. There's nothing, no big challenges coming from regulation, anything. There is, I'm not sure if you, as a Saudi lady, I don't have any statistic or any studies, but based on my observation, I witnessed that 50 to 60% of the women in Saudi Arabia cover their faces. I'm not sure if you witnessed that. So speaking in the hospitality industry, that will be some of the challenge for them, because they didn't find this challenge in retail, for example. But in hospitality, many of the international chain hotels require ladies not to cover her face in order to get real communication with the guests. So I witnessed some of the complaint from ladies applied for international hotel chain about this thing. Another thing, some of the women, especially the religious segment, would not be comfortable working in the same department, the same next to a male colleague. So there's the space issue. I think these are two of the main challenges for those segments, but it seems that they're trying to adapt the change and overcome. So hopefully in the upcoming 2 or 3 years, we will not see this as a big challenge for them.
So have you seen more women join you? Do you have women on your team in the last couple of years? Have you seen more interest?
Yes.
Whether into the real estate or the hospitality
in the hospital, I didn't find, alhamdulillah, since the beginning, we have a colleague, female colleagues working in HR department and the communication department. We didn't have a problem with this, but our real challenge was in the front office. We want more ladies to work in the front office as a receptionist. And to be honest with you, before 3 years, no lady would accept to work as a receptionist in a local chain hotel. They would accept that, for example, in Intercontinental or Sheraton, but in local company, they wouldn't accept that. But alhamdulillah, recently, in the last, I think, last year, we hired many ladies as a receptionist. All of them would like to work in the morning shift. That would be comfortable with them. So that's okay, that's okay.
So what has changed? I mean, you said something very interesting. So what has changed between 3 years ago when they wanted to work in the hospitality industry, but they would go and work for an international operator versus working for a local? But today, this seems not to be affecting them anymore. Is it the support that they have received? Is it the initiative that the government has communicated? What has made them more comfortable today?
To be honest with you, I don't know clearly, but as you've seen, the economic condition in the last 2 years has been changed dramatically in Saudi Arabia. The purchase power decreased, especially 2017. So I think that encouraged women to work in any available job. And the extra Saudization regulation, which pushed the private sector to accept to pay additional higher salaries or be more patient with those ladies. So previously, if a lady did a mistake or two, that would not accept her, but now that's okay. They train her for, 2 weeks, then they say, if you need any advice or something, just call us. So I think regulation and economic make biggest change. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Solange, obviously I'd like if you would like to add to any of those points, but really try to understand with the aggressive pipeline and growth of Hilton in Saudi Arabia, have you seen similar challenges, different challenges, and what are you doing with overcoming these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I have so many things to say regarding strategies and commenting on some of my colleagues here that have said. Actually, to start with, we're operating with 11 hotels in Saudi Arabia, and we have 35 hotels in the pipeline, so we are literally tripling the number. And to do that, we really need to have a very clear strategy around what are we doing with female and with diversity, having a diverse environment, an inclusive environment to really face this challenging openings and challenging number of hotels coming into the business. So talking about strategies, if we start talking about strategy, it's going to take forever because strategy is such a huge topic. But if I want to really summarize it, I would say 5 key points, and I will be very quick with that. First of all, I think having a clear and very strong diversity and inclusion strategy in an organization is key for the success of the business. And this diversity and inclusion strategy can be translated into few actions. Some of them, and I'm speaking on behalf of Hilton and sharing what we have done, that really contributed into the increase of number of females into the business. So first of all, benefiting from what your employer is putting as tools and resources for you to really advance your career, such as leadership and development program, not only grown internally, but also teaming up with international business schools such as Cornell and Harvard Business School. Two, a series of women in leadership conferences that we have held across the EMEA, and the last one was actually here in Jeddah just a few months ago. So, contributing into the conversation. So the women in leadership, exactly.
It was off actually.
Hearing us, it's getting scary.
So the women in leadership conferences, and the last one that was held in Jeddah was really actually a day and a half of conference, inviting all the females in the business in Hilton to empower them and equip them with resources and toolkits, they can leave the room equipped with things that they can use to overcome those challenges, be it work-life balance, be it the unconscious bias, be it speaking up, and all the other things that my colleagues have mentioned. So this was very inspiring and empowering, and it contributed positively into our fact sheet for the workforce, and I'm going to tell you about it. The third point is actually the driving license in KSA. So Hilton has done an initiative. We have sponsored every woman wanting to have a driving license in our workforce, obviously, and we have sponsored a basic package and a paid time off for them to go and attend the lessons to get a driving license. And that initiative has really was a changing factor into this whole perception of hospitality and this male-dominated industry, and how I can incorporate into the work-life balance and all of this. Of course, this is backed up with the working flexibility. We launched a policy around flexible working hour, flexible attire to cater to the work-life balance concept, and obviously an enhanced maternity leave to really tell that women are welcome in our organization, and we really look at their benefits or future benefits. And obviously the paternity leave is something that also to be on the other side, catering for all and great place to work for all. Paternity leave is something to come in the future.
Great. Just on what you've just described, I don't want to get you off guard, but all these strategies, what have they translated into? If we can talk a bit numbers,
sure,
in terms of how many of your current workforce in KSA is women?
Absolutely.
And how has this grown over the last couple of
Data
years?
and numbers is something I love, because that's
Great.
the only fact that you can prove that what you have done has really contributed into this. So in KSA, I'm not going to talk in general, in KSA in particular, we have seen 80% of our female representation. We have grown 80% over the last 3 years. 3 years back, diversity, women in leadership, women workforce was a topic that was not super activist. So 80% of growth in female representation. We have tripled the number of female in management roles in our hotels versus last year. Mudir al-Mustaqbal, which is our Saudi elite program, the future manager, Mudir al-Mustaqbal, it's a program that we do every year. Every year we have around 8 to 9 intake of Saudi gentlemen or ladies to come into the program. This has been there for almost 6 or 7 years. Last year only, we have witnessed 5 female on the program, and 5 out of 9 as yearly intake is almost half of the equation.
Impressive.
Of course, I can list some other things like all our development programs, Shine 4D, Shine GM, to develop our workforce into higher roles. We are seeing a lot of female representation. So those numbers and those facts and those data tells us really that this strong strategy and mastering the strategy and having all those action plan and initiative in place does really pay off very well. And obviously, as I always say, it's a journey. It will never stop somewhere. We will have to continue doing that.
But this is obviously very encouraging to start with. I mean, if you look at 3 years and there is that increase, this is the beginning of a very good story. Just confirming here that when we're talking about the women in your workforce, they are all Saudi nationals.
Absolutely.
So you're appealing to the Saudi nationals,
Absolutely.
which again, you know, as an investor or as an operator, this comes also as great news because that will mean less reliance on the non-Saudis, and you can train your people. And you know, in the longer run, 10 years down the road, there is pretty much no reliance on non-Saudis to really service the growth and the hospitality industry. Abir, if I can come back to you and speak a little bit more about the role of the government. So Hilton and the likes of the Hilton, they're doing their own bit. What are you and the government doing to also help them?
Sure.
Move this
First of all, I
forward?
also would like to comment about Takamul in terms of the numbers. So in Takamul, we have 33% of our employees are women, and 20% of our management team are women, which is a very good number in the professional services organization. Talking about the government, so first of all, in the NTP, one of the goals we have is to increase the women participation in the labor market. So going from 21% to 24% by 2020. We see that a lot of initiatives have started that related to women empowerment. So in 2017, 50% of the Saudi employment was for women. And the percentage of unemployment for women has decreased. So in Q1 of 2017, it was 33%. In the last report that came out, which was the Q2 of 2018, it went down to 31%. So the unemployment is decreasing. One of the most important things when you talk about the role of the government, what can we do to help, drive these numbers positively when we talk about women empowerment is, first of all, we need to understand what are the issues and the challenges that hold women from entering to the labor market. So from the studies that were done, there were 3 main problems. The biggest when we talk about Saudi women. So one of them was working mothers need a place to put their kids. So the government has launched a program for child care support. It's sponsored by HRDF, the Human Resource Development Fund, called Qurra, where any woman that her salary is less than 8,000 riyals can apply to government subsidies for the child care of her children for 4 years. So that's one thing, child care. The other thing was transportation. Of course, this study was done before the women driving, but until now, it will take time until every woman, can drive her own car. So we have a program that was launched 2 years ago called Wusul, that also gives subsidies for the services like Careem and Uber, where women can go from home to work, work to home. So that was another program. A third challenge was a lot of women who live in the rural areas or away from the big cities cannot easily find jobs. So one of the programs that was launched was telework, which offers the opportunity for those working in remote areas to work in companies in the major cities, especially in things like data entry and translation maybe and stuff like that, where you don't need to be in the office all the time. You can do the work from home. And in this, I think one of these challenges we have is raising the awareness of the companies, of the possibility of this option and the advantages of having teleworkers. So these are 3 main programs. Apart from that, of course, it's always, looking at what are the numbers, what are the challenges, and doing so many different kind of workshops with the industry the companies from the different industries, and the Ministry of Labor has been very active in that front, talking to the private sector to understand what are the challenges from all sides, and working together to support both the private sector and the individuals, especially women. Last thing I would like to mention also is having women leaders in the government and encouraging the private sector is another thing. Like we have Her Excellency Dr. Tamadur Al-Rammah. She's the vice minister in the Ministry of Labor. We have a lot of more prominent roles in government now being led by women. So putting women in these positions in the government is also something that would help women participation in the labor market.
So from your experience with all the different industries that you mentioned, is there any specific industry that is pushing more forward with this initiative?
No,
that
this
is
is
apparent, or is it across the board that there is full support?
no. These initiatives that I mentioned, like Qurra Wusul, these are all not related to specific sector.
Right.
Any working woman, Saudi woman, can apply to these. There are also other programs in the training and the on-the-job training. There is a program called Tamhir, which provides, and I'm sure that a couple of companies here have used this program, where any holder of a bachelor, master's, or PhD degree can have an on-the-job training in any company that has a mid-green nitaqat, and for 3 to 6 months, where they get a reward of 3,000 riyals per month from the HRDF. So the government doesn't, the company doesn't need to pay anything. They can just offer the opportunities, they bring them, they make them work as if they are employees, and after 6 months, they can pick the best of them. So without any obligations of employing them. So there are so many different initiatives right now that are being, supported by the government to help the different sectors.
Yes, absolutely.
And if I may add one more initiative done by the government, which we have been part of, is actually they have sponsored few Saudi youth after school in a scholarship. They send them to the US to get a hospitality in a well-recognized business school in the US. And once they graduate, Hilton, as many, similar to any other hospitality industries as well, they signed up for it with a promise to employ them. So they take them out of school, they send them to the US, they give them all the education, they equip them to the workplace, and when they come back, they have a secure job with Hilton and few other companies. So this is also another very well-perceived initiative from the government.
It's all great news. I mean, I was trying earlier on to perhaps draw a pattern, and the question about industry is trying to see if there is any specific industry that is more popular and understand why. I know the hospitality industry, not just in KSA, but for all the reasons we've mentioned, hasn't been the #1 industry. And obviously our role here is to inspire and to encourage people to join the workplace, the hospitality industry specifically, because there are a lot of plans. Solange, we've spoken about what companies, governments are doing and how they've evolved. And I don't want to ask again the question about the culture of our companies. I think we've said enough that there are a lot of initiatives. Again, from your experience, have you seen patterns from women that have applied that have changed? Are the women as well now changing the way they conduct themselves, the way they demand, the way they raise their voice or they want to be heard? Is there an identifiable pattern? Not necessarily KSA, I mean, perhaps the GCC, but also the KSA as it may be relevant.
I tell you something, 10 years back, when I started in hotels and hospitality, I've never heard about women in leadership and diversity and inclusion and unconscious bias and all those topics. Never heard of it. This has quickly changed. Why? Because of the change in the dynamics, change in the working environment, change in the whole culture. So all of this has contributed into one fact, that organization realized that mastering and championing a diversity and inclusion, having a diverse and inclusive working environment is key for the success of the business. This has only started being super active and translated into tangible actions and strategies, I would say 3-4 years ago. And obviously 3-4 years ago, we did not have all those facts to back up what I was just saying. But this pattern has definitely moved and evolved positively. And all of this because of the change in dynamics and because every organization wants to run a successful business, right, and wants to keep up with all the changes in the trends and in the environment and the cultures. So I think that's something that we've noticed.
And also, not to add, I mean, we didn't use the word millennials, but I think it comes without saying that, irrelevant whether they're females or male, like, you know, the new workforce, they have different demands, their expectations are different. They're expecting companies to invest in them, to develop them, to train them, to help them succeed. I obviously have a lot of more questions for you, but I just want to pause because we might be closing in 5 minutes. If there is any questions from the audience, we're happy to take also questions in Arabic, and it's up to the panelists how they want to respond.
Thank you. So I heard a lot of comments about efforts done at the leadership level, at the managerial level, and at the top, you know, levels of employment in the hotel industry. What is happening at the very basic vocational training type of initiatives in your company or with the government or in your company? What is happening at the very basic housekeeping, receptionist, and those jobs? Is there any strong initiative? Is there any big push? Because they will be the leaders of tomorrow, right? But we have to start today and invest in long run, long term. Is that also happening, or is it just concentrating at the top?
May I answer?
Please.
Okay, fine. So despite the number that you mentioned it before, which I think Saudi women represent 24% of the Saudi labor force, is that correct?
Saudi women participation is in 2020, that's the target.
2020, okay. For now, Saudi women represent only 16% of the Saudi labor force. And as I mentioned, the pattern of how do they work, this is not particular in the hospitality industry. It's a culture. Saudi women do not feel that they have to work. Someone is spending on them. They're living a luxurious life. So why would they work? So speaking now of the 16%, who actually part of them is a new beginner or in the new entry level. Just like you mentioned, working as a receptionist, working in the front office, working as customer service. Just like you mentioned, there is a pattern. A lady would work for a year or two, if she could complete even a year. And then she might get married, she want to have kids, so she quit. So, and in order to reach any managerial level, you have to remain in the same position or in the same company or the same field or industry for at least 7 to 8 years to prove yourself and to gain experience. So unfortunately, very rare women stay that long in one company. That's why we don't see that much women in managerial position today. So, but whenever you find, I mean, there are a couple of ladies working with me, they're really hard workers, they want to learn. Obviously, everyone will give them a chance to take over, giving them any kind of position that will be, I mean, will encourage them to stay and gain experience more in the company. That makes sense? Okay.
Hi, my name is Dal Hawaj. I'm from Riyadh Bank, a strategic partner to Door. First of all, I'm really honored to see ladies on a managerial level and empowering women such as yours. I'm really glad that we reached the stage where women are fully empowered and self-confident to go out there and just tell other women that you can. I don't have a question, I just have to disagree on a point that you said. I'm working on a corporate banking, which is a very tough field for a woman to work on in Saudi. And I have to disagree that we have a lot of Saudi potentials, a lot of Saudi women who are there and fighting their road. It's not a gold-plated road at all, but we're there and we're up to it. We're skilled and we're empowered by the employers. And hopefully we'll see a lot of leaders in the future. Thank you.
That's great, actually. Thank you for sharing this with us. There's here, and then there's at the back.
So, Salman Gassim, Swiss Hospitality Company. I'm the CEO. My question would be for Reem and I hope I pronounced it right. Solange. I'm really sorry. My question would be is that great initiative, great ideas in terms of how to want to develop and develop more and more calibers, local calibers in the workforce. My question would be, how open are you as an international brand and as a local brand? How regional brand? How open are you in terms of collaborating with other institutions or other service providers in the training and development field in hospitality to develop or to design programs for those specific target audience, which are Generation Z, which are millennials, which are Saudis, which are females and males, and so on and so forth. How open are you from your organization's perspective?
I would start.
Yeah, sure,
Thank
please.
you for the question. So definitely we are open for any opportunity to reach our target. And we have already started. We've developed a curriculum to drive more women empowerment and more women into the hospitality workplace. And that was done with a training institution and an external consultant. And obviously, because sometimes in some areas you lack of the expertise, and it's not good to always say, I know everything. Sometimes we really need to be open for professionals out there who are expert in their field, with whom we can team up to help us create something, an end product that suits us and really help us to reach our target. So to directly answer your question, we are definitely open. We've tried this, it's done, it's tested, it works very well, and moving forward, definitely would be open for that.
I think I agree with you. I have nothing to add. I have nothing to add. What she said is, from my organization perspective, if I had to what, again?
If you're open to such collaborations with other companies, you develop programs to qualify Saudis.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about our company. Before we started the hospitality sector, my father started another company called SHIC Development, which mainly developed hospitality building and residential project. So we are the king of outsourcing. We outsource literally everything. I swear to God, if I can outsource finance, I would do that. So yes, obviously, of course, as long as we slim, we can outsource everything. It's much easier for us to make any decision. It's much easier for us to shift and move. So yes.
I just want to point out one point, which is my question was not directed to Mrs. Abir. It's just because I know how much of Takamul are very much supportive and very much that are incubating a lot of companies and a lot of initiatives that are in that field. That's why I did not direct the question to you, because your work is already out there, but I just wanted to hear from your point as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, yeah, this is a question directed really, I think, mainly to Hala, just to understand about how you've got to, deal with this work-life balance. When we first worked together at HVS, you had just delivered your first child, which was about 15 years ago, and we were entry-level consultants. You then moved over to Dubai to set up the HVS office in arguably the most challenging economic environment that all of us have experienced, with a very young family. Today, you've now established firmly that company in this region. You've evolved to president of the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. Your families continue to grow. How have you, I've asked you at all of these stages, how do you do it? And every time I ask you that question, you respond with, I just get on with it. So I'm hoping today you might be able to give me,
I'll share the secret.
in this environment,
You're putting me on the spot.
in this environment, a more honest
outsourcing,
description
right?
of
Thank you,
how do you manage that work-life balance time management, discipline, and yeah, I want to know. How
Thank
do you do it?
Amir. I realize, you've been asking these questions for 15 years and you're adamant, and I'm going to give you the answer. But the truth is, when I used to tell you in the past, I get on with it, it's true, that's what I did. I just got on with it. But now in hindsight, when I look back and I actually reflect on how did I manage, it's true, I've started my career and never stopped. I haven't had the pleasure to go on maternity leave at all with all 3 children. And I'm a full-time mom, even though they boss me, but I'm committed. I'm a full-time career woman. And I did reflect. So now I think today I do have an answer. And just to add to what has been said earlier on, there are 3 or 4 things that I feel blessed that have supported me and have allowed me to do this. Obviously, one has to do very much with the individual, how much that individual has passion. I have a lot of passion. I also believe that we should love what we do, and this is what I do. I love what I do. That's why I wake up every day and I still do the same thing, and tomorrow again I'll wake up and do it. So that's extremely important, and that's not just about women. I just think in general, loving what you do is great. Now that's something you can drive, you can have the passion. The second thing is discipline. And I know it's easier said than done when we talk about work-life balance. In the beginning, I wasn't that good. But today, when I'm home, I'm home. And I expect everyone to understand, because when I'm at work, I'm at work. And I expect the family to understand. And it is genuinely this discipline that we have to put upon ourselves to know when to stop and switch hats and multitask. So it's not doing 2 things in parallel. I don't try to be in the office a mom. In the office, I do what I need to do. At home, I do what I have to do. And the 2 things that are external, but as important, HVS, in the 60s, when this whole thing about women leadership was not even discussed, it's an American company, all the partners, 70% of them were female. So I happened to land in a company where all along this was never, so if you ask me what changed 10 years ago, nothing. Because I was just into a system that, we never thought about it. And because of that, flexibility, giving you time, attending to family has always been there. Like if you need to be home, we understand. And when you're not home, you're working. So that's great. And I can never discount how important it is to have obviously a supportive partner, supportive kids, but also the support you get from whether it's cousins, it's friends, it's family, that they can cover up for you. So today, in short, back to your question, 50% is me, but 50% is very much also the environment. And my advice, we spoke about advice. I know we need to conclude, so I'm going to ask also ladies for your final word on advice. But my advice is that it will never be a perfect word for anyone and for anything. But, there is opportunities. There are companies that are committed, and we just need to find those companies that will allow us the opportunities as female to grow and succeed, if we really want to grow and succeed. And, to just drop off all preconceptions that sometimes we create in our minds. You want us to close, but please allow me just quickly with the ladies. Any last comment, advice, anything to add?
Well, last thing, I think, in the topic of women leadership, every woman has a choice, and everyone has different family circumstances, different organizational circumstances, different needs, different drives, different passions. So there's not one thing that fits everyone. Each individual needs to understand what works for them.
Right.
Maybe what worked for their mothers or their friends is something totally different. There's only one way to find out. Go out there and explore.
Super. Thank you. Reem?
I think my advice is not only for ladies, also for my male colleagues, especially for the new entries. Just be vulnerable. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to learn from these mistakes. Sometimes, just like you mentioned earlier, Abir, whenever you don't want to make a mistake, you just want to be perfect, that will really stop you from learning, to gain knowledge or increase your learning process. So just be vulnerable, patient. Sometimes you will get it. I know at a certain point, we will be frustrated because I want to be there, I want to get there, but I'm still learning. Right. So I think that's the one thing I learned from my MBA program. It really helps me during my career.
Super. Solange, last word for you.
Last word for me. So hospitality industry, like many industries in some functions, is perceived as male-dominated environment. So my only advice is for the ladies, don't be discouraged by this perception, because this assumption of the limiting beliefs and limiting perception around male-dominated environment is not true. And that would be my only advice. Pursue your dreams. Don't let it hold you back from a road to success.
Great. Just closing off with empowered women, empower women. Thank you very much. This has been very interesting. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Hala.
Thank you, Hala.